Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody. We're back for another episode of Emily and Rebecca talking about
just chit-chatting
about stuff. And we thought a good topic to discuss today would be the question of adding weight to the bar and adding body weight as a possible fix to adding more weight to the bar. And that gets into kind of a touchy scenario of, well, do I have to gain weight in order to make progress under the bar? I mean, that's a yes, no, right? I mean, I always look at that as a yes or no, and it's very individual with the client that you have. And I think that over the course of how many years that, you and I have been coaching people and seeing people, it's become more and more, you have to take people, you take people in stride when they come in the door and they say, I have a goal of doing X, right? And you have to kind of figure out what is their goal, what it really is, what do they want to be, what do they want to do when they come through our door? And there have been a couple of occasions recently of some of my members who are getting frustrated with their lifts. And for some, it's a question of just doing a little bit more, doing more volume, more work. And for some individuals, it's actually gaining some body weight because they've been working for, the past 3-4 months, making great progress. Now they're starting to hit a wall. They've already started doing more. So now is it more lifting, more volume, or is it actually starting to maybe add some weight to their body? I have a client who is, 6'4" and at 228. So, he's got mass on him, but he's also got incredibly long arms. He's really tall, and he's getting frustrated with his lifting. So there's that. Well, if you start to add some weight to your body, I think you're going to start to see your lifts go up. And he's starting to kind of come around to that. But I wanted, we'll go back to him, but what are your thoughts, Rebecca, about, when do you have that discussion with somebody? Because I think it's an important one to have, because there's so many mixed messages that people receive in regards to body weight, strength training. And I thought you had a good story that you wanted to tell me about.
I'll get to that later.
Okay.
Later.
So,
but I guess when you're talking about what you're saying now, what that's reminding me of is like, there is a stereotype out there, or a joke basically, like, oh, you're going to get into starting strength. Well, here's what you're going to look like. And it's like picture of a person with a pot belly, or, that sort of thing. Or that meme that was, Thor in the early movies versus, Thor with the bowl of salsa or guacamole balanced on his belly, and he's eating chips and drinking beer. Like, this is Thor before starting strength. This is him after starting strength. Right. And so like people have that idea or that association that this is what's going to happen, or this is likely what will happen if you, do the program. And then I think you just get into a point, right? Like, there's a tipping point where you have like a conversation, like, you've gotten as strong as possible doing what you're doing right now. How much stronger do you want to be, and what are you willing to do to get there? And how does that fit in with your other goals for your life, your activity, your body, your, anything else along those lines? So I don't actually usually get into that with people until, like you're talking about with your individuals, like you get to a tipping point where it's like, okay, something needs to change. And that's when you have that kind of frank discussion. Like, starting out, I don't think that, anybody's really in danger of turning into Fat Thor, right? But like, and a lot of people, if they start out, if they've, got some extra body mass, or they're fluffy or whatever, they might like lose some body weight or lose some adipose tissue or something like that. Like there's lots of different ways that first couple of months could go depending on the individual. But then you get to a point where you sort of are trying to assess with the individual what are their real goals, and how do you best support those real goals with programming and nutrition.
Exactly. I think everybody who walks through the door, probably, who contacts you, contacts us, their goal is they want to get stronger, right? I mean, they like strength training. We've got former CrossFitters who had done CrossFit. They like that, but what they discovered they really liked was the strength training portion of that program. Not so much the WODs, not so much the variety, but they liked the lifting. They liked the squatting. They liked the pressing. They enjoyed the deadlifting. They wanted to just do that. So they come in and they want to train. And then some people come in and who had Googled strength training and just want to get started with, with the barbell lifts. So they come in with the goal of, okay, I'm here to get strong. And then couple months down the road, as you said, then they start to hit a wall and we have to reprogram. And it's, there are changes in the, in their program and their intensity and volume. But then after those changes are made and they start to hit a wall again, well, that's when it becomes very, very individual, right? Well, what does this person need? What is your goal? If you're frustrated that your press and your bench, is not going anywhere, that you're really, discouraged by how hard it is. Well, I, as a coach, have to kind of say, okay, what have we done with the program? Is the program, good for this person? Have they been compliant and coming in and training regularly, 3 times a week? Okay, yes, that's not the issue. Well, okay, they're 6'4" and 200 pounds. That might be start to be an issue, right? 6'4", 200. Okay, they're under 200, but for someone who's 6'4", they can carry a lot more weight on their body and they still look 6'4", 200, even if they weigh 220 now, even if they weigh 230, right? So there comes a point where maybe adding some body weight to your frame, especially for a guy, whether a tall guy or even a shorter individual who's kind of underweight, they're going to need to have more mass in order to lift more mass, if that is their goal. And for this person, that is the goal. He's really frustrated. Mm-hmm. Diego's first response is, have you looked in the mirror? Have you seen how long your arms are? And that's really frustrating because the bar has so far to go overhead. And also benching, it's very unstable, right? Because he's got to control this bar with these long arms. And then on top of that, he's smaller on top than he could be at his frame, at his size. So that's something that we've been, kind of in discussion with him, and it's starting to resonate. He's starting to because he doesn't necessarily eat a lot, right? It's not that he doesn't eat. It's just that, he kind of forgets. He's busy. Yeah. And it's fine now, but it's starting to catch up with him. It's starting to catch up with the work he's doing. That's his goal.
Yeah. So just to clarify too, what we're talking about is people whose goal is to lift heavier weight, right? Right. You do at a certain point when you start having that discussion encounter individuals who will say, you know what, I don't really want to lift a lot heavier weight than what I'm doing right now. That's another conversation. That's a different podcast. We're talking about the individuals who are committed to the idea that what they want to achieve is to lift heavier weights to, get, higher 1 rep max on their various lifts. Not the people who are like, yeah, you know what, I'm strong enough for right now. I don't really want to do more right now.
Yeah. But I think I think we can talk about a little bit about both because we do. I mean, as I said, I find it's very individual. I mean, I've got this person on this hand who says, I really want my press and my bench to go up. And I'm like, okay, we need to add more weight to your frame. Mm-hmm. And he says, okay, what do I do? Okay, start eating breakfast. Okay, start weighing yourself. Okay,
start eating breakfast.
Right? And he's doing that. And I make him write down in his logbook, 8 breakfasts today, weighed myself. Right? He's ready. He's game. Mm-hmm. Then we've had in an individual, we've had a member who wanted to be as strong as possible, but really wasn't willing to put in the effort to add more weight to his frame. And then over time, he kind of pulled back his desire to add weight to the bar. He was
Right.
satisfied with what he was doing, and his body weight stayed the same. But he was okay with where he was with his lifts. That was his goal. Did we push him and make him talk about changing his goals? No. He was coming in. He was making progress. His shoulder had been bothering him for some time. His shoulder started to feel better. He was
Right.
able. So, I mean, his goal was to, play basketball recreationally, to just kind of feel good and to do, outdoor activities and just overall feel like his training was reflecting on what he was doing outside the gym. Body weight, that wasn't his goal. We didn't push it because, again, his goal was to come in, train, feel good with how his shoulders felt, get some lifts in, and go on with his life. That's where you have to kind of not put yourself in that person's shoes and say, you need to do this. That's not why
Right.
they're there. That's not why they're there. But, there comes a time where you maybe have to speak, frankly, with the person who wants to gain strength, but isn't willing to gain body weight. And then where do you go with that?
Yeah, see, I have to have this frank discussion with myself on a regular basis, right? Because it's like I do enjoy when I can do a heavy deadlift, but that's not where my life is right now with
Right.
4 kids doing school from home and lifting in my basement. It's just not the same motivation. It's not the same in terms of available time. There's a lot of other stuff going on. And so, like,
So I think that goes along with the discussion that Diego and I always have about, a process-oriented goal versus a goal versus oriented goal.
an outcome or product versus
Outcome and product, exactly. And
process product.
process. We talk about process.
Mhm.
My big goal for people is show up. Once you start this program, show up. Show up 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Show up 3 days a week. If you only have 1 day a week, show up. If you have 20 minutes, show up. And one of my young clients is finally doing that. He's finally he comes in, he goes, I have 30 minutes. What do? I go squat. He comes in, I have 20 minutes, press. I've got 10 minutes, push the prowler. I mean, but
Yeah.
he'll show up for 15 minutes and he'll do something and he'll leave. At least he's showing up. So he's going to make some progress even by just getting in the door and doing something.
Yeah. Or even just like maintaining a little
Right.
bit. Like I've got a guy online right now who's National Guard DC. So his schedule has been insane. And we sort of pared things way down just to kind of maintain some sort of consistency, regularity, habit,
Right.
like 1 lift a day.
Right.
That's all he has time for.
I mean, and if that's what you have, then that's what you have. And you as the coach have to kind of you respect that, and you make sure that the program that you're giving them, the coaching you're giving them is on key and on point for what they're able to do.
Mhm.
Because as Diego said, it's not the program's fault if the person doesn't succeed
Comply.
or comply. It's your fault as a coach. Compliance is everything. No matter what the program is, compliance is everything. And that's something that's tricky too with in regards to eating. If we're talking about
Yeah, let's bring it back. We kind of got off the rails there.
if someone needs to gain body weight and they're willing to, you have control in the gym with that client. They come in, they do their program, they're lifting, you're coaching them, you have control over what they do, right? I was in there last night having one of my ladies working on her push-ups. I'm like, okay, do 2, then hit the band. Okay, now you're resting for 3 minutes. I'm telling her what to do. She's following me.
Mm-hmm.
When she leaves, I don't know what she's eating. If I'm working on somebody and I'm working on their eating and they say to me, yes, I want to eat. And they go home and they decide to go to sleep. Well, going to sleep is good. Okay. Sleep is good. I'm not going to say not that, but they decide, they're just going to go and have 3 beers. Okay. That's not eating.
Yeah.
You're going to come in the next day and you're not going to have, you're not complying with what you've just said to me you want to do. So there is that fine line of the person says they want to get stronger. They say they're willing to put body weight on. And yet once they walk out of that door, you're like, oh, man, I hope hope he's going home to eat some dinner.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
there's a certain point too with a person's lifts if they want to make progress, and the progress is going to be best achieved by also putting on some more body mass, some, the eating is as a hard a task sometimes as the
absolutely,
lifting can be. I mean,
absolutely,
it takes as much of a commitment, and not just like filling up with like empty beer calories or something, but the stuff that your body needs in order to build the muscle that you say you want. And it's Ryan had a line in his email about that, which I thought was pretty relevant, where he's talking about the nutrition and the
hmm
eating also as being part of the training.
yeah,
If you're just kind of casually eating, that's the same sort of approach to casually exercising, right? There's a difference between exercise and training in both what you do in the gym and what you're doing in the kitchen. And that's also a level of commitment that maybe you have a particular goal of lifting a heavy weight, but if you're not able to make that commitment in the kitchen as well as in the gym, you may not achieve that goal. And you just got to be like honest about that. What
yeah,
does my life right now allow
yeah,
me to do
yeah.
in terms of focusing on the food? Like, Ryan's got he's got a little baby, right? So,
Got
the
two,
fact too. So the
got two
fact
girls.
that like he's got the time, or he makes the time to eat in order to support his gym goals, takes a lot of effort, and it takes pre-planning. It's not the sort of thing that you're going to be able to do on the fly. And if you're the type of person who is kind of Spartan in your approach to food, and you can eat exactly the same thing every day, that makes it a lot easier.
Yep,
If you're not that sort of person,
yep,
it
yep.
takes a lot of planning.
Oh no, it does. I mean, it takes. I mean, this. I don't want to go off topic with in regards to losing weight, but it's the same approach as if you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
lose weight. You have to
Right.
be compliant. And I tell people that all the time when they want to come in. And most people come in. They come in. They want to get stronger. They want to learn the lifts. They want to do a strength program. Over time, then they say, I wouldn't mind losing some weight. I'd like to work on my weight loss. Now, if they've been training for 3 months religiously, I'm like, great, let's do it. If they come in on day one and they want to do both, I say, let's give us 3 months to train. Give me 3 months of compliant training, getting in here, getting on the program, really staying consistent, then you'll find it much easier to start to start a program where you're now focusing on losing weight. And you can be compliant there because you've already built up this compliance with tracking your progress, writing down your
Right.
lifts,
Right.
writing down what you do, because trying to do too many things at once is impossible. And I think the same thing applies to people who are trying to maybe to gain weight. As you said, they have to start with a program first, and then start to kind of add in and build up their eating habits. I think Ryan talks about protein shakes will be your friend, because
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to eat if you're trying to build mass. Now, the individual who doesn't necessarily want to put on a lot of body weight probably will still put on some weight, and that's okay. And I think that's where that discussion sometimes can get maybe a little touchy with somebody who maybe has had some issues before with eating and with gaining weight. I've dealt with that with a couple of my clients already. They're willing to, they want to gain weight, but they've had issues in the past with body image issues or and maybe
Oh,
not
okay.
disorders to an extent. And I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a therapist. I don't diagnose disorders, but someone who has had her own experience with that, I can relate. And I try to encourage the person to just slowly eat slowly,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to put on weight, but then there's still this anxiety about
Right.
when they do put on weight. There's a remembrance of what they felt like before. So
Yeah. So that's because I wasn't quite sure if you meant like people who have like an anxiety related issue towards gaining weight, but there are also individuals who just like physically have a hard time putting weight on their body. Like
yes,
people ectomorphs who are like super, super thin, very high metabolism,
yeah, yeah,
want to gain weight, want to lift heavy, like are drinking protein shakes with the most calories that they can find and still are like skinny rails. right? So that's like a whole other issue.
Or they put on the weight, but they have to continue to eat that way, or else they're going to lose weight. My husband is that
Yeah,
person, right?
that's what I was thinking of.
He has spent 10 plus years training and eating to go from 155 to 185. Now he's hit 200. That was a few years ago. He was at 200 for about 3 days. His
You get
body.
a picture? Did he post it someplace?
We took a picture of his feet on the scale, and pretty much because I bet him that he couldn't gain weight he couldn't get to 200, but he did. But when we were moving this past fall, he lost like 10 pounds, 10, 15 pounds. He dropped because he just wasn't eating because he was stressed from the move. So he was having his usual meals, but he wasn't doing the extras that he needed. And he was also coasting with his workouts too. He was just kind of going in, getting something done. He wasn't focused on anything, right? Because he was stressed about the house. He lost weight. Now he's back to where he normally sits, but he has to make an effort if he wants to stay there of eating and training. And that requires shakes. That requires extra little, snacks here and there. I mean, he can put a bag of Cheetos away, no problem. It doesn't do anything to him. It helps him stay with his body weight. It doesn't put him over. It doesn't add 10 pounds to his frame. It helps him maintain that weight. So there's somebody, though, who wants to be that weight, who wants to make progress in the gym, who's trying to build muscle mass, right? He's trying to get stronger. And for him, he has to make a real effort to do that. A lot of my
But you're also, like, what you're saying there too, though, is like he's got a level of honesty with himself in terms of what he's able to do in the gym when he's not eating in a manner that supports it. And that's like the hard bit, I think, for a lot of people. We always want everything. You can't have everything at the same time necessarily. So like if there are times when the eating doesn't support the lifting, well, the lifting, like you said with Diego's, might just coast for a while. But then other times when you've got the mental bandwidth and the time in your life and you're able to do the planning and the preparing in the kitchen to support the lifts, then that's when you can focus on that. But just being honest about what you're able to do at a particular time and keep that in line with your goals.
I think a lot of this comes down to many people who start a strength training program and maybe start the program that, you and I use. They think right away that they either have to eat a ton of food, in order to do this. And then they just put on body weight, but their lifts haven't gone really anywhere. Like it's not helping them. And then others who want to do the program, but don't want to get fat. I don't want to put on a lot of weight. Well, for most people, they're not going to do that unless you actually make the effort to do that.
Yeah.
Someone has to make the effort to like go above and beyond where they really should be. Most people will make good progress staying with the weight they are, or adding a little bit of weight to their frame, if they're unless they really want to make like competitive gains, then.
Yeah, but the other thing is it's going to be a slow process. So like the first scenario that you're describing where someone just rapidly gains a lot of weight, that's not going to be muscle. That's going to be a lot of extra adipose tissue, like a lot of extra fat, right? Because you just had too many calories too fast. So like gaining weight and losing weight at an appropriate pace is going to be maybe 2 pounds, 1 or 2 pounds a week, either direction, whether you're adding or losing.
Right.
And just like, I mean, people are familiar with that concept with weight loss, like the programs where you lose 10 pounds in a week, right? That's water weight. That's not real.
Yeah.
Right. And so similarly, if you're trying to gain muscle mass and you want it to actually be lean muscle mass, it's not going to happen rapidly. It's going to happen at a slow pace. So anything that's like, oh, I just gained 10 pounds this week, maybe you want to evaluate what's happening.
Exactly. You have to, you're not, I mean, the process of gaining weight isn't going to be, as you said, putting on 10 pounds a week. That's someone who's just shoving food in their mouth and then saying, oh, well, this program made me fat. No, you made yourself that way by eating a lot of food and really not following, the protocol of, what this program actually is.
And I mean, like along those lines, like one of the things I think that's in some cases rightly, but in a lot of cases wrongly associated with the program is the GOMAD diet, the gallon of milk a day, right?
Yes.
Now that's appropriate if you're an under-muscled teenage male. If you're me and you're in your, back in the day when I was in my 40s, starting this program out for the first time, drinking a gallon of milk a day would have been a very bad idea.
Yes.
I did not do that. I did not gain an excessive amount of weight rapidly doing this program.
Yes.
So you got to, think about who you are when you're starting and, adopt an appropriate approach to the eating.
Yeah. The GOMAD is, the 17-year-old boy, the 20-something-year-old man, right? Maybe even late 20s, early 30s, let's say. We'll stop about there, right? Because, I mean, and you're saying, the gallon of milk, you're talking like protein shakes, milkshakes, that kind of thing, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's called gallon of milk a day just because that's the least expensive,
And I tell people like protein shakes, add a milkshake in. It's the same concept, right? Add a shake. You can add a lot of calories without having to like chew and swallow, a lot of food. But for women don't need to do this. Many women, they're coming in, they're not necessarily looking to gain weight. They're not even looking to lose weight. Some are. The ones that I encounter want strength. They want to build strength. Over time, they might want to talk about losing some weight. They might even want to, and they might even be open to gaining weight for my underweight, taller ladies, right? Adding weight to their frame is going to help them. And if they have that open mind, they're okay with it. If that's because they've already bought into the concept of strength training and being stronger. And, the big thing we talk about is protein, of course, eating a lot of protein to help with the muscle growth, with maintaining the muscle that you're building. But the GOMAD for older people, for older men, I'll say like 40 and over, I only know of one person who actually put on some weight recently with drinking milk all the time. And that was Jay. He told Diego that the weight he's put on was from drinking milk.
That's hilarious.
A ton of milk.
But the other thing too is
he doesn't cook meal. He's not a cook. He doesn't prepare meals. So drinking shakes and stuff is easy for him.
Well, but the other thing too is it's like, I think, like how it's like, I'm going to guess Jay wasn't necessarily drinking an entire gallon of milk every day. He just added like maybe an extra glass of milk. Right. So that's different too, because like and I'm not calling Jay old because clearly I'm the oldest one in the room, but like for an older individual to try and do something like that isn't going to result in extra muscle mass. It's more likely to result in extra belly.
Yes. And, Diego and I were discussing this the other day because his goal when he was trying to get to 200 back a few years ago was he wanted to get stronger with his lifts. Well, he got a little bit stronger. He didn't get a lot stronger. So gaining weight for him, getting to 200 didn't
have the payoff.
Didn't have to pay off.
Wasn't the payoff he was looking for. Yeah.
When he went back and he got back down to 190, 185, and he changed his program up a little bit. A difference was made. There was a big difference. Another coach that we know, Robert Santana, who's the dietitian and strength coach. He's a lean guy, and he gained weight way back trying to get his lifts heavier. And it didn't do much for him. So he stopped that. He, dropped the weight and then started a different program. He was getting coached by Matt Reynolds, and his lifts took off. So for him, he's like 180, 185 pound guy too. He got better, staying with the weight that was really consistent and better for him as a lifted body weight. And changed his program so that it would kind of accommodate the body, the weight that he was, and it took off. So there are lots of cases where gaining extra weight doesn't really, you know.
So what you're talking about, though, is kind of the principle that we were discussing initially, which is that it's all very individual.
Absolutely.
And sometimes gaining more body weight will help with the lifts, especially if that extra body weight is translated into lean muscle mass and not just extra fat tissue. Right. So in all of these cases, though, what's happening is it's gradual and over time, and it's tracked. And then people can look back at their log, back at their record and say, this worked, this didn't. I'm going to do more of this thing that worked and less of this thing that didn't, and making those changes appropriately. Yeah. So I kind of want to get back to an idea that you've mentioned a couple times in passing, both in relation to some of your female trainees, but also some of your guys, this concept of being under-muscled or underweight. Right. And so that's something that you or I or another strength coach might think, right? And then this concept of like, we might think that in the context of, like the world of strength training, right? That person that we look at in the context of the world of strength training and conclude under-muscled or underweight, that person may not perceive themselves that way. And chances are in the popular culture, they would 100% not be perceived as under-muscled or underweight. They might be perceived as like model quality.
Right.
And so that's something I kind of want to touch on a little bit too, because like for one, a point that you had brought up before is making sure that we as coaches are not imposing our goals on the lifter. So what if someone that a strength coach views as under-muscled or underweight comes in and wants to start lifting, and the coach's natural instinct might be to think like, well, you need to put on some weight, that'll help with your lifts. How do you address that situation where you're not imposing your worldview or your goals for their health on them? And then also you mentioned something about some of your female lifters who you would view as being under-muscled or underweight, who had like an open mind after they'd been lifting for a while and decided, okay, yeah, I am interested in increasing my lifts. And if that means I might need to put on some body weight, how do I do that? So my first question is, how do you address a lifter that a strength coach would perceive as underweight, who does not perceive themselves as such? And then secondly, what's the process by which a person's mind or worldview might be changed so that they say like, okay, yeah, I am open to considering the idea of putting on a little more body weight to help my lifts.
Definitely.
Or to be stronger.
Right. Definitely when the person comes in, that's, my goal is to get them under the bar and teach them the lifts and start them on the program, right? They're there to get stronger. So I'm going to start them on their novice progression, keep the weights really conservative, especially for my women, so that they have room to build. No one should be failing anything week 2 of their strength program. And especially with my women, I try to be as conservative as possible with the upper body lifts so that they have a long way to go. Regardless of who that person is when they walk in the door, whether they're underweight, overweight, whatever. It's the body that they come in with is the body that we're working with. My goal is to get them stronger. Now, as they start to progress and as the weeks go by and things start to get heavier, I simply begin to change the program, right? I start to add in more volume, especially with the upper body lifts, because that's where they're going to start to fail first, right? We have less muscle mass up here, and someone who is a little smaller is going to have a harder time, making progress with the press, let's say with the bench, because they're just as women, we're weaker on top and then less muscle mass. We're not going to be able to lift as much. So the program's going to change. Then over time, it might be, again, I kind of let the client guide me. I don't push that person. I don't say anything until things start to falter. Let's say we've adjusted the program, we've made some changes. Now, though, things are getting really heavy, and the goal is that we can't just reset all the time. It might be having that discussion of, how much protein are you eating? Are you eating enough? I kind of go on to that. I just kind of move in that direction. Like, tell me about your eating habits. Did you eat something before you came today? How much protein are you getting? And then the person, possibly by that time, might have already started thinking about, I wonder where am I going to go with my lifts? They might say to me, why am I having a hard time with my lifts? And we had that discussion, same as we have with the guys. Well, it might be, we maybe, how much are you eating? What's your protein intake like? I'm not going to say you're underweight. I'm not going to say we need to put more weight on your frame. I might just start to talk about nutrition in general. And that might lead to a discussion of, oh, wow, I'm only getting 50 grams of protein. I'm like, well, I need you to get 100. Well, that means they're going to have to start to eat a little bit more. And if they say, oh, wow, yeah, I can do that. Okay, let me start with getting 60. And I say, okay, let's start to track your protein, just your protein. There's this all of a sudden a shift from, okay, I'm strength training but I really do want my lifts to go up. Okay, Emily's saying, let me take a look at my protein intake. Well, that's just another way of saying, let's eat a little bit more and see if that changes things. I really haven't encountered anybody who has balked at that when we've come to that discussion. There's never been I'm not going to eat. I don't think the women who come to that after they've bought into the strength training are going to have that. If I haven't had an issue with them. In fact,
well, I think also though with a lot of the women, especially even prior to that, like in the first week or two, there's a conversation that takes place about like you might want to add an extra protein snack or something.
Not even. I don't even talk. I let the person kind of guide me. I really do. I have all different body types who come through my door, and unless they approach me about eating more or eating less, or unless they're having issues the first couple of weeks, like they're not recovering or they're failing something, it's not me. It's obviously the program, because it's like, I can tell by what I'm watching. So then it might be, did you eat today? No, I didn't eat today. Why didn't you eat today? I forgot. Okay, well, we need to talk, and we might have that conversation, but I don't push anything on anybody unless they come unless it becomes a kind of like we come to at the same time, right? I mean, I'm already there, but they have to kind of come to that realization, like, shoot, my lifts are starting to really feel heavy, and we've changed this and this. What's the next thing I need to do? And I had a client who she didn't stay with us, and when we moved to the new location, just because the drive, work, all that kind of stuff. But she was moving in a really good direction of wanting to be strong and understanding that she needed to eat in order to do that. And she was a pretty tall, thin woman. So it's really interesting to talk about my ladies, because I don't ever have had a situation where I've had any of them really just say, no, I'm not doing that. And they, of all the people, more so than my guys, want to see that weight go up. Like they want their weight on the bar to go up, and they're willing to do anything to make that weight go to make that weight go up almost,
Yeah. I think also like the difference I'm thinking right now is like you are in specifically a strength gym.
Yeah.
And a lot of the women that, like if I'm working with women at a commercial gym,
yes,
some of them are like, they come to me in the first place because they want to get toned.
Right.
I'm like, that means build muscle, get stronger.
Yeah. It's a different mindset. It really is a different mindset. And it's a different environment too. Like they walk in and it's nothing but bars and racks.
Right.
And no mirrors and no cardio equipment. And it's like, you're here to work. Like I look around the gym sometimes. I will just stand there and cross my arms, and someone says, Emily, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just looking at my people. I'm just looking at my ladies. I'm looking at all these women like benching and pressing and like writing in their log books and putting their belts on and tying up their shoes and just like, and I just kind of go, wow, like this is amazing. These are women of all walks of life, all sizes, all backgrounds, all ages, and they're all here for the same purpose. And not one has ever kind of just said, no, I want to be as skinny as possible. And I don't, but I want my weight to go up. Like that doesn't even like cross their mind. It doesn't cross their mind. It's like they want their weight to go up on the bar. And then when they decide to lose weight, they lose weight and the weight still goes up on the bar. So because they've already learned to focus on that strength training, they understand what it means to find that balance between either gaining weight or losing weight. I mean, it just comes to when I say to them, can you eat more protein for me? Can you do that for me? And they go, I think I can. And then boom, they lose weight. I mean, I know it's not that simple, but they've already bought into this idea of, I want to be strong. And strong means eating. And eating means energy. And eating protein means muscle. And I want muscle. And I want tone. And I want to feel good about myself. It's really interesting because I haven't been in a commercial gym in, over 11 years.
Yeah. So it sounds like to me, like the answer to my second question about how you help to get how the women in your gym kind of become open to this idea of not trying to replicate like the skinny rail model image is got a lot to do with like positive community of peer pressure, right? Like this is this gym, this is what we do here. Yeah, they've bought in. This is what I want also, and that helps to get them into a place where they might consider that putting on some body weight might help them with their lifts. But the answer to the first question is kind of the same thing we've been saying in all of our podcasts, which is it depends on the individual. Like how you get someone who is under-muscled, male or female, to a point where they might consider putting more weight on their body in order to support lifting heavier weights in the gym just comes down to you as a coach listening and being open and receptive to the moment that they say, you know what, I think this might be a different direction that I want to go in now than where I was.
That's the thing. Your goals can change. If if one of my clients comes to me and says, Emily, I'd like to lose weight, I'm not going to say to them, you don't need to lose any weight. You're fine the way you are. No. Okay. I can help you. Let's do it. Let's sit down here, read this first. Let's, come and talk to me. Let's start a log. It is, I'm there for you. I tell people I'm there for them as much as I need to be and as little. And I cover everything. I tell people all the time, I can help you with nutrition too, whether that is wanting to gain weight, lose weight, add more protein, whatever it is. It's very individual. I think we will come back to that same thing. It's the person. It's not you telling that person what you think they should do. It's that person telling you, I'm here for X. Can you help me? Yes.
So is there anything else in the, like the topic was sort of like how sometimes gaining body weight can be a fix for stuck lifts?
Yep.
Anything else along those lines that
oh man, I mean, I think we've touched on just about everything. And I think the biggest takeaway is really like, what's your goal? And if your goal is you want to have a 405 pound deadlift, but you're 6'4" and 160 pounds, and you just started lifting, you might want to consider putting some weight on. That's going to help you considerably, unless you are a genetic freak. And, but most people I see, I do want to talk about something that, and Ryan mentioned this, that gaining some weight too, for let's say taller people, maybe even shorter, but taller individuals can help with a lot of pain you might be having too, back pain. I definitely know of one of my clients who's 6'4" and 170, who was with us, who had terrible back pain for years, tried everything. The minute he started strength training and added some weight, back pain went away. Mm. Because he started to develop glutes, like his butt actually got bigger and was able to support, his frame. I mean, it's true. I mean, many people, I'm reading a book right now written by an investigative journalist on the back industry called Crooked.
Oh, interesting.
And she mentions like her flat pancake ass, and her back hurting all the time. I mean, many people with back problems, not everybody, but weak or non-existent glutes, non-existent hamstrings, non-existent, it's going to contribute to pain. Not in every case, but, for some people, the minute they start to gain muscle or weight, their back pain starts to go away. Well, they also just start getting stronger and they start moving their body. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can, that can occur. But that's something Ryan, it was interesting that Ryan mentioned that, I think, because it actually happened for him too. He sort of,
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like, I don't really remember Ryan as being like very lean to begin with. Was he?
he said that he was about 205. He's six, what's Ryan, 6'5"? He was 205 when he got out of active duty because he was in the military, and went up to 225, he said. And he said he didn't look any different from 205 to 225. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, gaining 20 pounds didn't do anything. It just made him look healthier. He said he looked less like a skeleton and healthier. And then he's right now about 255. And he'll say this, he's got a bit of a belly, and he'd like to lose that. But even at, 255, like, he has to make an effort to keep that weight on his frame. So that's but Ryan's somebody who wants to, gain muscle and gain weight and not more weight, but he knew that adding weight to his frame would help his lifts, help his strength training, help him feel better and look healthier, and do more for him. Would he like to lose some of the fat that he's accumulated? Sure. But his goal right now is a hypertrophy program. So your goal has to match your goal, right? What you do has to match.
Your physical body weight goal needs to be in line with your weightlifting goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And,
like the way I was when I came in, when I first started lifting, and I was like, I don't know, I'm going to like about 112 or something. I couldn't have done a 300 pound deadlift at that body weight. Yeah. And I got to a point where I was closer to like 120 and doing 300 pound deadlift, but that was pretty much the limit. Like if I was going to do a heavier deadlift, more body weight would have kind of probably been the way to go.
Yeah. But I mean, you have a much heavier deadlift than I do, and you're shorter and weigh less.
I have less distance to travel.
Well, but you're also strong.
I think somebody, Craig or whatever, was like, yeah, well, your deadlift is like 2 inches off the ground or something.
You're also you're strong. You're strong. And I should say you're strong for your size. I mean, you're strong. And I'm stronger than I was, 15 years ago. Absolutely. And I'm stronger than I was 10 years ago when I started this program. But my progress was, I hit that, I hit my potential long ago, but I have a lot more muscle in my frame now. My back doesn't hurt me. My lifts are going well. I mean, I've made good progress and I'm happy with my progress, but I don't have those goals maybe I had how many years ago to hit certain numbers. Well, I hit some of those numbers. So numbers are numbers. What it ultimately comes down to, are you satisfied with where you are, and are you enjoying the process of training and getting stronger and making improvements in yourself? If the answer is yes, then good. And the answer is no, then we need to figure out.
You're describing that very much like a process person.
Exactly.
Yeah. And some people, if you're a product person, if you're an outcome person and your main goal, you're 100% committed to the weight that you're going to lift on your deadlift or your squat or whatever, then you're going to do all the things that you need to do, even if that means putting on extra body weight, right. Even if that means eating every 2 hours in order to make that happen, you're going to do those things. If you're a process person and you're enjoying the process of building strength, and the outcome, what that ends up being like, yes, in terms of measured strength, in terms of weight on the bar, is of less importance to you than
yes,
enjoying the process, yeah, or finding balance with your life and being able to say, like, I wasn't able to eat well this week because my kids' school went out of control or something like that. Yeah. Like something happened and yeah, you need to be able to make adjustments for that, whatever it is. Or, like my pig had piglets or something, right? Spent the week in the barn. Any of those things, like, then, maybe the goal and the outcome are going to be, the goal and the process are going to be different. Yeah. And you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with your coach, if you have a coach, with your own training. And I don't think any
there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, there's no right or wrong, approach to your training. I enjoy the people who come into my gym week after week, who are there, who are smiling, who are, happy to be there. They've got their program, they're putting the weight on the bar, they're fixing their lifts, they're enjoying, many of them are enjoying the process. Some have goals, they have numbers, but their numbers are down the road. They're, they just, and they train.
Well, like a perfect example of an outcome person that we've just talked to is Craig Brooks, right? Like he has gained 20 pounds, something. Well, he's gained body weight since I was last up there, and his lifts have gone up considerably.
Oh yeah.
Like that's all part of the,
plan.
He's very committed to the heavy lift.
Yes.
So
yes, but Craig also,
and he enjoys that. He loves that.
Oh yeah, and then once he hits that, he's happy just to kind of do other things too. He's doing some jump roping now. He's always messing around with like different lifts and different workouts. It's nice. It's nice to watch him train, because he just gets in there and he just puts some weight on the bar, and you see him focusing and you see him concentrating on what he's doing, and videoing himself and checking in with himself. But everybody is kind of training in that same way. Trying to think of anybody who has like goals. I mean, I think the one lifter I was talking about who's getting frustrated with his press and his bench, it's just because he really is enjoying himself so much, and he sees it, it's just he feels how difficult it is, even though he's doing fantastic. And I have to keep saying to him, have you looked at your arms lately? Like a person with shorter arms is going to have a much easier time than you.
Right.
But he's frustrated only because he's enjoying it so much, I think. And he really sees like, he just loves the doing it. He likes doing it. He likes, doing it right. He's very much a perfectionist. And I have to keep telling him, like, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Like, stop putting yourself down. You're doing great. But
yeah, that's another podcast, Emily.
Exactly. That's for another day and time. So
but seriously, that's a good topic, because there's a lot of people that are tied up in perfectionism.
Yes. And I think that's definitely, for another time.
We'll get there another day.
I've got a lot of topics. I think now that we're, as I started jotting them down, I was like, oh, we could talk about this. We could talk about this. We could talk about this.
Yeah.
But yes, perfectionism.
The trick is not doing it all on the same day.
No. And I've learned this because I had to, work on it myself. That's so much of what I've worked on with myself, and you too, I'm sure, now I can easily transfer that to my members, to my clients, and help them, because I've gone through the same thing that they're going through. I can empathize with them. I can give them some good feedback, and usually it does it helps them get through that stage. All right. Well, I think that about wraps up our discussion here on is body weight the fix.
Sometimes. I think we wrapped it up and then rolled past the wrap-up.
Maybe. If you have questions about what we discussed today, or anything that we've talked about over the past few weeks with our podcast, please contact us. As always, you can find me at Emily@5by3.com, and you can find Rebecca at
Cornerstone Strength Maryland @gmail.com, or just cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com.
There we go. So questions about anything we've talked about, or maybe you've got some topic ideas that you'd like us to discuss, we're open to definitely your questions and comments about strength training, programming, just anything in general. And we will be back in a couple weeks. I don't know what the topic's going to be about. It'll be a surprise for both of us. But probably somewhere along the lines of what we've been talking about, today, in terms of just, training in general, and how to get over, various humps with your training, or maybe just discussions about how to get over being a perfect lifter. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Catch you later.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, Please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.